It's pretty.
Yeah, I like it. Just been fooling about with it for a few months now. Very delicate.
It's a bit of a departure from the kind of thing you normally play.
Yeah, well, it's part of a trilogy, really, a musical trilogy that I'm doing in D minor, which I always find is really the saddest of all keys, really. I don't know why, but it makes people weep instantly to play a... It's a horn part.
It's very pretty.
You know, just simple lines intertwining. You know, very much like I'm really influenced by Mozart and Bach, and it's sort of in between though. It's like a Mach piece, really.
What do you call this?
Well, this piece is called Lick My Love Pump.
If your friends are nerdy and you are nerdy too, I wanna talk to you. Friends talking nerdy.
All right, what do you got?
Next film, I'll do a little comedy. This is a weird little film. Dr. Detroit.
Dan Aykroyd, yeah.
There we go. Yeah, actually, I think this is the film he met his wife on. Fran Drescher's in this movie as well. So is Lynn Whitfield. So Dr. Detroit, the base of the movie is that Dan Aykroyd plays this really uptight professor. Howard Hessman actually is a pimp, and this syndicate, nothing run by Big Mom, wants to take over. So Howard Hessman says, no, it's not me. I don't run it. Doctor runs it. So basically what happens is Hessman runs into Dan Aykroyd's character, convinces him to do it, and Dr. Detroit is born. Really cheesy 80s movie, but when I look at the list, I was like, you know what? This film is funny. Just for it's Dan Aykroyd, so you can't go wrong with that. Dr. Detroit.
Yeah, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, the first film he did after Belushi's passing. And, yeah, I mean, I'm sure he would probably agree it's probably not his best work, but it was the first work that he did that really focused on himself, because his previous writing experience was, even Ghostbusters was originally meant for him and John Belushi. So he did have to kind of break away to, focus on himself. And, that brought us Dr. Detroit.
Yep, great film. Great film. All right, Tim, what's next on your list?
All right, so movie from 1983. It is a sequel to one of the greatest movies ever made. It is Psycho 2.
I haven't seen. Break that down for me. I haven't seen Psycho 2.
It's the whole idea is that Norman Bates gets out of prison and the town is scared of the results. Norman is at the beginning of the film cured, and then just hijinks and shenanigans happen, and then at the end of the movie he becomes mother again. What I really liked about it is that the filmmakers involved knew that they were not going to top the original, and they did not try. It's just it was essentially the further adventures of Norman Bates, and it really gave Anthony Perkins a chance to shine. He's, for my money, one of my favorite actors, and just seeing him get a chance to play one of the more iconic characters in movie history again, definitely worth it.
Okay, Psycho 2. Add it on my list. Gotcha.
Yep. All right, what do you got?
Next film up, I'm gonna go a little darker, based on a true story, and this film is called Silkwood, directed by Mike Nichols.
Right.
It's based on a true story. Karen Silkwood was a plutonium processor in the facility in Oak Ridge in Tennessee. But supposedly due to terrible conditions in the facility, they were getting poisoned. Really dark film. I remember seeing it really on cable. One of those really interesting films with that, but really good cast. You got Cher, Kurt Russell, Craig T. Nelson is in the movie. I think Fred Ward's in the film. And, during the 80s, early 80s, these dark movies and real movies start really coming out more. You start seeing a lot more tension and a lot more realism. And it's one of those films I saw that really got my attention and really kind of opened my eyes to the type of filmmaking. And I'm a big fan of Mike Nichols, where it's just in terms of pacing, and it's good to see Meryl Streep act, and it's good to see all these actors come together. But the film really just moves in a way that you see more of the subplot of how they're out to get her and things are happening. It's incredible. It's definitely a really hidden gem, but definitely a great Mike Nichols movie, no question.
Yeah, I remember one of my teachers in grade school actually had us watch that, which was awkward. The first time that Karen Silkwood, the Meryl Streep character, had to have the contamination scrub down scene. But you're right, definitely a powerful film, and It's one of those movies that is a textbook way to preach to you without preaching to you about a certain topic.
Oh, no question. Yes, no question.
All right. So my next one from 1983, Return of the Jedi. Not
surprised. Yeah, not surprised.
Not the best Star Wars movie ever made, but it's not Attack of the Clones bad either. Lucas at the time was going through a rather heated divorce, and just the pressures of the Star Wars movies, he did what he could to kind of shut the door on it. But there are some great scenes. I love how Vader redeems himself at the end. I do hate how Lucas tried to change that in the Blu-ray by having Vader say no when he's throwing the Emperor down the shaft. That old, the saying they say about films, show, don't tell. He was making that mistake by having, Vader say no when his actions kind of showed everything that needed to be said. Mark Hamill put on a great performance. Again, not the best Star Wars movie in the world, but it was a way to kind of cap off the best way to cap off the original trilogy. And then John Williams' music. I mean, yeah, it goes without saying. The final music they have in the Ewok village before it hits with the Star Wars fanfare during the credits brings tears to my eyes. Good stuff.
Yeah, it is, but it's also cool. Lando gets to fly the Falcon, so I like that as well. So you're absolutely right. It was a nice way to coda of the movie. Luke's become more aware of it. We can see Han back. We can see all these characters come together in this interesting sequence. Definitely a good film. Definitely for us fans at the time when we just realized it was just those three. It was a good coda.
Yep. All right. So what do you got next?
Next film I have on my list. I'm gonna switch it up, and I'm gonna go to another serious movie, Terms of Endearment. This is James L. Brooks' movie. Mm-hmm. Shirley MacLaine and Jack Nicholson, Deborah Winger, and I do believe Jeff Daniels in it. So it's a story of a relationship of a mother and daughter. This is really kind of the film that Brooks enjoys doing, and before he did this, he was a producer. He created Taxi, Mary Tyler Moore Show. So James L. Brooks has been around for quite a bit. I think this film won Best Picture that year. It was a really good film. Great performance by MacLaine and Nicholson. Jack Nicholson plays, I think, a retired astronaut who starts to woo after Shirley MacLaine, and MacLaine gets him the brush off. But it's all, like I said to you in the last podcast, it's always nice to see really two good actors play off each other. And for those two, they really play off each other very, very well. So Terms of Endearment is one of my mystery of films.
Yep, written by Larry McMurtry, I believe his name is, who did go on to write the book Lonesome Dove.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, my next one, a film from 1984, Ivan Reitman's only good movie, Ghostbusters.
No question, that's on anyone's list. If it's not, you need to not stop listening to us right now. That film is it. I'm so mad at myself. Did not see it in the big screen. I remember that day that film came out. Everyone's costume was a Ghostbuster, and it kind of makes me wonder about this premiere of Strange Things when the guys have a Halloween, they're all just as Ghostbusters. That's going to be really interesting to catch. Mm-hmm. So, yeah,
and just overall, just an absolute perfect movie, which made me question Sony's logic in rebooting the franchise the way they did. I mean, we spoke about it in our last podcast together. You know, they really did a disservice by doing a hard reboot. They should have done a soft reboot like they did with Jurassic World and The Force Awakens, had Dan Aykroyd in the movie, had, you know, the other original characters kind of doing smaller cameos, and then let the new people take over. But just overall, a perfect setup, and the setup was brilliantly done. They captured the realism amazingly well, so that by the time you do get to the fantastic stuff with the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man walking through the streets of New York, you believe it.
Yes, you do, but also the relationship between the three with Egon, Ray. I mean, it's that's just funny. And who we got? You know, Dan. I said you got again Dan Aykroyd. You got Bill Murray, and you got Howard Ramis this time. So really great stuff.
Well, you can't forget Ernie Hudson. I guess.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that role was originally, if I'm not mistaken, written for Eddie Murphy, and when he refused, they did kind of cut that role down, which is a shame because Ernie Hudson, my goodness, the caliber of acting, the caliber of actor that he is, he's another person that is criminally ignored and should be getting a lot more work than he does. But even with the work that he does now, I mean, he knocks it out of the park. I mean, he was on Oz and did a great job on that. He was another person that kind of laid a level of reality that film needed to make the fantastic parts of that film work.
Oh, yeah. When he comes in, he says those real lines, you know, I've seen shit that'll make you turn white. I love that line. Yeah, that's it. It's you know, I got to watch that. I haven't seen that film in a moment, but it definitely is an incredible film. And I think you're right. It's a classic. I mean, for that year, that's a great film. It still stands up, and just the performances, you know, like when they're running through the street, or the first time when the X-Men gets slimed. I mean, incredible stuff. But it's definitely a classic. Definitely on my list as well. Good call.
Yep. All right, what you got next?
I'm gonna go another extreme as well, geeky, and this one I've been dying to talk about: The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai.
Peter Weller.
Yes, Peter Weller. Oh, this crazy film. The first time I saw this film, and I think it was on Showtime, and it just got. I was like, this is the weirdest movie. Like how it starts off. So you know, Weller plays Dr. Buckaroo Banzai, who is who realizes a neurosurgeon, but also there's Daredevil, and he rides with the it's Buckaroo Banzai, and I think it's the Hong Kong Raiders, I believe is the name of the group. But oh man, great film. Jeff Goldblum. Carl Lumbly, who plays one of the John Clancy Brown. I'm a big Clancy Brown fan. Is in this. Robert Ito, and on the bad guy side, you got Christopher Lloyd. You got Dan Haneda. I hope I say his name correctly. I forgot the other actor who plays one of the bad guys is in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. But of course, John Lithgow as Lazo, I think it is. Crazy Italian. Incredible film. Oh, and Ellen Barkin's in it as well. Forgot about her. Great film.
Nice. All right.
What's next for you, Tim?
Next for me, another one from 1984, Gremlins. It was...
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I remember seeing that in the theater. That was what do you think of that film, man, the first time you saw it?
It was definitely unique, but there's an interesting backstory there because Gremlins, E.T., and Poltergeist are actually all a part of one story that Steven Spielberg dreamed up. And what he ended up doing was taking elements from that main movie that he was trying to make and just kind of split it off into three separate ideas. I guess the idea he dreamed of was aliens coming to Earth. Most of them were bad, but then you had one good alien on there that ended up helping the human beings, and there was some supernatural elements. But Gremlins is quite a good film. I think the second one, Gremlins 2, the next batch was just schizophrenically good. It was a unique film, but the first one was a nice little homespun. I mean, Hoyt Axton was good as a Billy Peltzer's father. Phoebe Cates did a great job in that movie. I don't think it's necessarily stood the test of time, but it's definitely one people should check out.
Yeah, it's one of those 80s movies that when it came out at the time, I remember seeing it in the theater. It was really it's a fun little movie. Mm-hmm. Geeky fact, I think Howie Mandel did the voice of Gizmo, right? Yeah,
he ended up using the same voice that he did for Bobby in that cartoon he did in the 90s, Bobby's World. Right.
Okay, Gremlins. Yeah, that's on my list too.
Yep. All right, what's your next one?
Next one. Let's change up a little bit. Another film that's on my list for this year. It's there it is. The Last Starfighter. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that classic film. That one. Wow, we really I really started going back in time. I'm 10 years old now. But yeah, I remember seeing that film in the theater. So I don't know if it's based on a comic book, but the whole idea of the story is this kid in this trailer park is a killer on this game, and little do we realize it's a recruiting tool. Robert Preston comes and gets him, and the whole shenanigans him flying in space. Really fun movie.
Yep. Believe it or not, I have not watched that. Not out of any disinterest or anything like that. It's just one that's never really crossed my mind. But I have seen. It's been a story that's been redone multiple times. I know the Clerks animated cartoon had an episode that was a ripoff of that. Family Guy has definitely made plenty of references to The Last Starfighter. But I definitely need to check that one out. All right, so the next one on my list, a little doozy from 1984, Johnny Depp's first movie, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, classic, yeah. Yeah, that, when I first saw that film did scare me. It's kind of funny, man. I was talking to some people at work today about my list. I was telling them what I was doing, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, we remember seeing Nightmare on Elm Street, but it seems so dated." But at that time, I mean, that film. I mean, the storyline itself, talks about that, right? This guy is killing these kids in this nightmare. Why are they doing it? He's getting revenge for how he was treated by their parents. So you go through the whole scenario of these kids trying to stay awake, and no one's believing in that. When they go to sleep, they're dying by this guy. I mean, great concept. And I think during that film, we never really hear Robert Englund's voice or Freddy's voice. It's always pitched or modified. We rarely see his face. We see the outline of him and that claw, and we hear the noise of it scratching against the metal. And it sets a really unique tone of the movie because it gets dark, and you don't know, no matter what you do, you can't stop him. And I wish they'd have stayed at that one, not done 2 or Dream Warriors or the remake. I know they did all that, but for what I think that was Wes Craven, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah, for Wes Craven, I mean that's a really incredible film, and it's cheesy by today's standards. It's nice because if you look at the story, that's a really cool story. How this guy has this unique ability to people to dream. So it sets a lot of dream type of movies coming out, or just the story scenario itself. So I like it. The first one still is a good one for me.
Yeah, and the visuals too. I mean, especially for a woman, I could imagine it was scary for me, but I can imagine for a woman it'd be much more scarier. Where Nancy's in the bathtub asleep, and then Freddy's hand with the claw kind of inches its way out of the bath water near her pelvic region. And then when her mother enters the bathroom, it kind of slips back down. Wes Craven was a master. He didn't do what most horror films do today and rely upon the jump scare. A lot of his stuff was just creepy and made your skin crawl. And I think that's what I'd see someone like Eli Roth, who I think is a good filmmaker, but in a lot of ways I think he needs to pull back, because if he pulled back and let the audience kind of imagine the horror in the scene instead of showing it to them, he could scare them a lot more than he already does.
Yeah, when you're making a movie, you really got to trust the audience. So when you set it up properly, the audience is going to believe you. So just like with Nightmare, you start to get into it because you don't want to fall asleep, and it happens. Like, you know, the way Depp got killed was tragic. It's pulled in, and blood just spurts all over the place.
Yeah. And that death was definitely on the cheesy side, but, you know, similar to Ghostbusters, by the time you get to that point, you bought into the film. Yep. All right, what's your next one?
From the same year, I'm going to get a little serious. This is one of my favorite films. Well, you know, let me just say this. Every film that I can't speak for Tim, but every film I say on this is my favorite film. So let me just get it out the way. But this one is a really serious film for me. It's a soldier story. It's based on the play called A Soldier's Play by Charles Fuller. Now, I say that because this film deals with African American soldiers. There's a murder that happens on the base, and a lieutenant is sent. A lieutenant is sent out from Washington. A black lieutenant is sent out to an Army barracks base in I think it's in Mississippi or Louisiana. I could be wrong. And the film talks about the process of investigating and going through to figuring out who killed the Sergeant Waters, played by the great Adolph Caesar. Adolph Caesar is also known for doing those crazy voiceovers. So, like if you remember 70s, excuse me, like 70s trailers. He's the guy that's going, you know, like that deep Crowley voice, you know, so and so tonight. He's known for doing that. But in this movie, you have Howdy Rollins, Denzel Washington, David Alan Grier, just name a few, Robert Townsend. The play itself, Denzel was in as well, so was Adolph Caesar. This is a classic film scored by Herbie Hancock, and especially times in today, this is a really film I recommend people watch and have on their collection. It deals with what I kind of talk about, we say inner racism, dealing with racism within and with black folks, or in this case with black soldiers, how they're seen on this base. And it really does it in a well-done way. Let's say it that way. But Norman Jewison directed it. He also directed none of my movies I love, and He the Night. So this is one of those films I highly recommend that you have in your collection to watch. It is relevant today, and it's one of those films that I really love recommending to people.
Nice. I actually have not heard of that. I'll definitely check that one out.
All right, Tim, what's next up for you?
My next one is a classic, 1984, a movie from James Cameron called The Terminator.
Yep, on the list as well. You know, that's airing on HBO right now, so I've been watching that sometimes when I've been just off relaxing. I just pop it on. That film still stands up.
It does.
And you know what's weird? You know, O.J. Simpson was considered to be for The Terminator. That's crazy.
But they thought he was too nice of a guy.
No. They thought he wouldn't be believable.
They thought
we gotta look that up.
Yeah,
originally Cameron had wanted him, but I think they said we wouldn't be believable. Go figure.
Yeah, I mean, because of his public persona, they thought he was too nice. So yeah, you're right. I mean, they thought he wouldn't be believable, and then the Schwarzenegger and Cameron both talk about how when they first met, Schwarzenegger had read the script and decided that he wanted to be the Terminator. James Cameron saw Schwarzenegger and thought he would be perfect as the Terminator, but they didn't start off by stating that. They initially wanted, I believe Schwarzenegger was going to be they initially thought he would be the Michael Biehn character, but the conversation turned around in what if you were the bad guy, and that again. He took a chance. I think the thing about Schwarzenegger, I know when I was in college in theater, you would get my professors, you would get other actors bad-mouthing Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I'm not going to say that Arnold Schwarzenegger is the greatest actor ever, because he's not. But what I think he is, he's the smartest. And by that I mean he knows his strengths, he also knows his weaknesses, and he puts himself with writers and directors that can play up his strengths to the hilt. And, this is one of those first instances where he met the right person that could utilize everything good that Schwarzenegger does.
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, I think he plays it smart. We didn't talk about it, but I think Conan was also on my list as well. But for this, when I saw it again, and I was like, you know what? Arnold just plays it. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to come get you. And it does it in such a menacing way. I remember seeing this in camp. I mean, it's just think this machine, like, the scene in the movie where I think Michael Biehn's character is saying to Linda Hamilton, he's not going to stop. He can't be reasoned with. doesn't feel pity or remorse. It's just like, when you hear you say that, you go, okay, until you go, this thing is not stopping. And even though the film is set in the 80s of Los Angeles, it still stands. It's still, I mean, you know, with the most iconic lines in film history. But for Schwarzenegger, I mean, this is the film that really made him an international star. You know, we had Conan that made him known, but this film took it to a whole new level. And I guess that word is they're doing. Cameron has agreed to do another one with actually, I want to see interesting with an older Linda Hamilton and the older Terminator, which would make sense because the Terminator's character has that exterior skin, is going to age, but it will still be strong as a robot. So it'd be kind of interesting to kind of how is Cameron going to present that. So that does set some possibilities, I must admit. And
I'm definitely excited for that, but what I hope they do is kind of go back towards the initial concept of this film and the sequel, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Honestly, the Terminator movies, when they first started, were sci-fi horror movies. They didn't have to have this convoluted backstory that the later sequels tried to give to that movie. Does it matter where the Terminator, the T-1000 came from, the T-100 came from? He's just scary as hell, and why not just embrace that? And Linda Hamilton does not get enough credit for. I mean, you know, they talk about Sigourney Weaver and Aliens. Linda Hamilton, to me, will go down as one of my favorite female stars in those type of movies because she brought a feminine side to both of those roles that I don't think Sigourney Weaver brought to Aliens. I think she's the better female iconic hero than Sigourney Weaver.
Okay, I'll get you on that one. But I just think with Linda Hamilton's character in the first one, she really didn't, you know, she couldn't believe it. But then once Treasure came out, she goes, you know what? I have to get, this is happening. I now believe this. So yeah, but I do agree with you. I think, you know, as an actress, she doesn't get as much credit, and for, you know, for this film and for T2, and I'm trying to think of other films she's done as well, but definitely for her role as Sarah Connor, I mean, you know, she'll definitely go down film history, and hopefully, you know, I can't wait for the new stuff. But to your thing with Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, same concept. In the first Alien movie, she didn't realize it. After Aliens 2, she then realizes that she realizes that, you know, I got to stop these things. And I get it. Maybe it's not as extreme as it would be in Terminator, but at least in Aliens, you can see Ripley's character has a determination towards the end. And, you know, there's also a backstory to that Cameron cut out, but neither here nor there. But I get you when you do say that. I do feel on some of those aspects.
Yep. All right. What do you got next?
Next for 84, I'm going to go to another good film, Red Dawn. Yeah, this I remember when this film first came out. During the Cold War time, issues with the Soviet Union, and just a weird possibility of them taking over the U.S. You got Patrick Swayze, C. Thomas Howell. I think Charlie Sheen's in this.
Yeah.
And Harry Dean Stanton. So for those who don't know, the best of the movie is that the Russians invade the middle part of America and literally just take over this town. And a group of teenagers literally take disappear in the mountains for about a couple of years, and come back. When they come back down, the town's taken over in chains. And really, it's just a weird scenario of what would happen if Russia had invaded the United States. It's a cold film too, man. It really is. It really was a cold movie. And war is cold, but from when I saw it, it didn't really hit at home as much for me. I guess because I live in New York. But it's one of those films that threw out the scenario of, if this happens, are you prepared for this? They literally lived a guerrilla warfare lifestyle in the mountains. They fought back. You saw the power struggle once they picked up. I forgot Ben Johnson's in it as well, classic Hollywood actor. When they go to his house, they pick up his grandkids. I think Leah Thompson and Jennifer Grey is one of them. Oh, I remember that one. And they, they become part of the group as well, and they deal with the fact that even though they're women, they're still part of this. There's no, we're all equals. We're all fighting for survival. Really interesting film, man. Red Dawn's one of those 80s and thrillers. It's definitely fun to have in your collection.
Yeah, I believe John Milius directed that. I believe he may have wrote it too. And I was sad that they tried to remake that film, because I think that is one that was a film of its time, and it's also kind of uncomfortable too, because it also, on the negative side, is like a Fox News contributor's wet dream type of movie, if you get what I mean. In the fact that the enemy is just the enemy, and the good guys, the good people of the town need to do what they can to fight it. So I know, and also John Milius is one of a noted conservative as well, and just something about that film always made me feel a little uncomfortable, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I do. Yeah. Yes, I do. All right, what's next up, man? All
right, my next one, a little film from 1984 called This Is Spinal Tap.
Yeah. I think the listeners can guess. There's some movies on the list that are no-brainers, and that's definitely a no-brainer on my list too. That's definitely on there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think what makes that movie more than anything is the music. If the music was not good, I don't think that movie would have been as successful. And the fact that you got so many unique personalities in that film. I mean, you got Mr. Burns as the bassist of all people. You got Lenny from Lenny and Squiggy, Laverne and Shirley, the lead singer, and just the believability they bring to the role. I forgot his name. Who was the other guy? What was his name? He's married to Jamie Lee Curtis.
Christopher Guest.
Christopher Guest. I love that bit where Rob Reiner's interviewing him after he plays that a nice little piano piece, a beautiful little piece, and he goes, "What do you call that?" "I call it Lick My Love Pump." Just little things they throw out there.
Oh yeah. When those three get together, Harry Shearer, Michael McKean, and Christopher Guest. Oh, it's a trouble. And yeah, that film. That's a mock documentary. Really, it still stands, man. I haven't seen. When's the last time you saw that?
It's been a few years. But I actually own some of their music. They actually the first time I actually heard of Spinal Tap was, I believe it was the late 80s. They released an album without a movie. They just released an album with some great music on there. Like one of the songs they did a video for was Bitch School. And they did a funny video for it, but the music, we're gonna send you back to bitch school, and it just brilliant. They definitely did their homework. I mean, you hear interviews from rock stars that have seen that movie, and they thought, many rock stars like Steven Tyler from Aerosmith thought it was a documentary about a real band. He didn't understand that it was a comedy. Same with Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, I guess they've all experienced the "Hello Cleveland" type of event.
Yeah, and definitely a mockumentary. It still stands, man. Still stands.
Yep. All right, what you got next?
Next, we're keeping it in the same year. Let's shoot. He passed away about 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. Purple Rain. Got that on my list. Yeah. I saw that's V8. My cousin had a VHS copy. I saw that. Great film, great score. No need for me to describe the scenario of that, but that film really set the tone for Prince's life and music wise. But also, this was we kind of forget during this decade. This is the MTV generation. So a lot of these films that we're talking about, we would have seen commercials on MTV. With them, in heavy rotation. I remember the Red Dawn trailer where that guy at the end goes Wolverines, like Red Dawn Friday, type deal. I remember those trailers and such.
Yeah, and it took Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back for me to appreciate that film, simply because of one band, Morris Day and the Time.
Yep. Great, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
great. Love that group. Love them.
Yeah, Jungle Love, amazing song, and then Prince, of course. He, as a musician, he's the perfect. He is the superstar of the 80s because he delved in so many different facets of music, whether it be rock. I mean, his work as a guitar player alone just blows other rock stars away. He worked in R&B. He dabbled in hip hop. I mean, he was all over the place. Yeah.
Miss him. Great musician.
Yep.
Incredible movie. Incredible film. Oh, yeah, Clarence Williams III flips it in here, too. Great actor as well. Got to give him a shout-out.
All right, so my next one, another movie from 1984. We've actually talked about it on a previous podcast, The Toxic Avenger.
Wow, you know what? That did not make my list, but yeah.
The reason it made my list, it's Lloyd Kaufman holds a special place in my heart just because of the creative vibe he gives off. He encourages people to just create and be silly, and honestly, he is the modern day Roger Corman with a level of talent. I mean, we talked about it before with The Toxic Avenger. That's where Marissa Tomei got her start. Vincent D'Onofrio got a start on a Troma film. James Gunn is probably one of the big flag bearers for Troma films now. He got his start. He wrote Troma's best reviewed film, Tromeo and Juliet. And now he's off in the Marvel Universe with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Lloyd did a guest shot there. And the funny thing about Lloyd Kaufman, too, he's an interesting guy. He went to Yale, the class of 1968, and two of his classmates, Oliver Stone and George W. Bush. So I found,
wow.
Yeah, that. And he also was... I don't know his official title, but he was responsible for finding locations for movies. He actually did work on Rocky. He did work on Saturday Night Fever. He was the person that found the nightclub that John Travolta did the legendary dance in.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
Yep.
Yes.
So, yeah, I fully understand it's not going to be on people's top list of greatest movies ever made, but the passion that Lloyd Kaufman and the Troma team bring to their movies, that, to me, I would take that any day over some drab Julia Roberts romantic comedy.
Well, that's a good thing about being geeky about it, is that you like what you like, and nothing's wrong with that. I think Toxic Avenger is definitely a great film. And Troma should not be, underestimated. Nowadays, Troma kind of sets an example of independent films. Like, we're going to do it the way we want to do it. This is the story we want to tell. And they had a niche, like I said, with Killer Clowns from Outer Space is probably the most well-known film. One of the most well-known films in there is next to, Tromeo and Juliet. I think that's the movie you said before, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So, for that, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong at all.
And with that, part 3 of this discussion on 80s movies is in the books. That also puts episode 14 episodes in of Friends Talking Nerdy. That puts it in the books. Thanks once again for listening. Next week, we are going to be having a special guest on the show. So if you are looking forward to part 4 of this discussion on the 80s, it will happen, but not next week. Next week, we're going to have a very special guest on the show. More details will come at friendstalkingnerdy.com, but I'm really excited for this to happen. Myself and Sterling are going to be recording a special interview with a surprise guest. And again, we'll fill you in a little bit later before the episode comes out on who that guest is, but it's going to be a fun one, folks. So once again, thank you for listening. As always, we recommend heading over to ChristopherLazarek.com to find out more information on how you can buy his wonderful EP, Here's to You, which is available on all digital platforms. We are indebted to that man for the wonderful theme song he made. It's one of those theme songs that it kind of gets in your head, keeps on going, and you're just humming it before you know it. So thank you, Mr. Lazarek, for giving us such a wonderful theme song. And if anybody is listening to this, again, go to his website, ChristopherLazarek.com, purchase his EP. He's a talented musician. He deserves all the money in the world. He needs to be on MTV. Make him America's next pop star. So with that, we'll see you folks next week. Episode 15, we'll have a very special guest. Head over to friendstalkingnerdy.com for more information.
Are you habitually using drugs, stimulants, alcohol?
No.
No. Just asking. Are you, Alice, menstruating right now?
What has that got to do with it?
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.